Grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient, natural, divine, Moorish Americans who are the heirs to all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. We're just excited to gather again and to exchange energy. We have a lot going on in our nation and government. If there is some feedback coming up, if you'll go ahead and star 6 if you know you're going to have some noise in your background. Go ahead and star 6 to mute so that everyone can hear Islam. And then if there's any of the channels that come up on the sound meter, we'll go ahead and mute as well. Islam. So on the screen, you will see that on September 11th, we are having a national day of fasting for the Moorish nation and our government. And that fasting for each of us is it's not going to look the same for everyone. Some will be doing a water-only fast. Some will be doing fasting from sugar, things with sugar in it. Some will be fasting from Some will be fasting from meat. Some will be fasting from, it just depends on whatever you feel led according to whatever the ancestors tell you in regards to fasting. Go ahead and fast in that manner. Always the ancestral energies within you should be guiding you. We don't tell sovereigns what to do. No one can tell the sovereigns on the land what to do. The sovereigns lead themselves. And so however you are led on September 11th, coming up to fast, feel free to do so. It is a suggestion. It is nationwide, government-wide, earth-wide for the Moors that are on the different land masses who are listening in and who will hear this. September 11th, it's actually a universal day of fasting for us. And however you are led to fast, feel free to do so. Some will fast from meat. Some will fast from things with sugar. Some will do water only. Some will do liquid fast that day. And it's from sun up to sundown. And however you choose to do that is your choice, as led by your higher self within you, Islam. That is where we're going first. And then also on the screen, you will see where we are on October 31st going to be meeting here at Mounds. It's going to be at 12 noon. It is an ancestral burial ground, but many of you who are in the other territories, you already have mounds in your territories on October 31st. If you all will come together on that day, and it is suggested that you choose a mound together on that day to meet at noon, whatever your time zone is, so that we can celebrate the return and the standing and the restoration of our courts and of our government. And that day, October 31st, is significant for so many reasons. One of the reasons that we chose that day is to come together as a nation and as the government is because that is the day on October 31st that the veil between the dimensions is thinnest. And so where our ancestral energies are concerned, we will be in direct contact. Not that we're not on any other day. We are the ancestors' return. And we will, on that day, the dimensions will meet more so than any other day of the year. And so we want to take advantage of the energies and frequencies meeting on that day, October 31st of this year. So we are going to be meeting at the mounds, mounds here at Washington Territory. They're at Olympia, Washington Territory. For those who are in this territory or wanting to come to this territory for that day. And then for those who are going to be in their own territory that day, go ahead and meet there so that you can connect with the additional ancestral energies that are going to be available to us on October 31st. That day is also the day of the full moon as well, one of the two full moons for that month. And so we want to take advantage of the full moon energies as well. It is the blue moon that day, which is going to be following the harvest moon, which is on the 1st of October. So for that day, October 31st, we want to take advantage of the full moon as well. There are so many other things going on that day. And as we know, that day is the day that the corporates were celebrating Halloween, what they call Halloween, but Halloween is a hypothecation of the dimensions meeting on that day. So the ancestral dimension meeting along with us here in the physical and metaphysical earth as well. So we are at this time in what the corporates were calling the time of revelation. It is the revealing of the true sovereign God of the land, which is the heirs. And also, some of the empresses who are the star readers have said to us that we are in the season of fun and great gatherings. So for the next year or however long, we're going to be just celebrating the fact that we're standing and that we have returned to the land, which we never really left, but it is publicly proclaimed now that we are the heirs, etc. And that's because of the demonstrations that the heirs have been doing, each of you. So we are to be congratulated as a nation for that, and as a consulate as well. I wanted to say a little bit about also, there is a corporate adage that says, and this is just a little side note, because there's been some things that have come up lately, and I just want to address them very quickly before we go into all that we will be discussing today. There's a corporate adage that says, you get what you pay for. As usual, where more science information is concerned, it is just the opposite. Everything that the corporate says is going to be a hypothecation of what the truth, our Moorish science truth is. And so where more science is concerned, you get what you study for, okay? And by the same token, the more you pay for information that you should be studying to obtain, the more worthless and dangerous the information that you bought and paid for will be. So this is not, more science is not information that one can purchase and buy and use and expect it to work. More science information is information that you should not be paying amounts for. Okay, the study must be done so that when you demonstrate, you can stand on your demonstration. And that's based on your study. So again, the corporate adage that says you get what you pay for is absolutely the opposite of the truth for Moorish science. In Moorish science, you get what you study for. Okay? And the more you pay for this Moorish information, the more dangerous and more worthless it is to you because you haven't studied it. Okay? Everything that is done here is done by study. And that is what makes our demonstrations far more effective. The process, you know, there are Moors who have been going to different places and, you know, getting different processes here and there. We've put out processes as well for you to study and then demonstrate according to your competence and your study. Exactly. And with regard to those processes, know this, that the process that will work best for you will always come from within you and has everything to do with your study. It will never be what you pay for. So you never should be paying for processes and expecting them to work that you have not studied. So don't, you know, it is suggested that the sovereign not to do that. Go ahead, do the research, do the study, do the homework. That is not something that you can buy. Okay? You will be able to demonstrate your own processes that you studied far better than you can demonstrate anything that someone else has given you and that you have paid some fiat for. It's always better not to pay the fiat, but to study, to show yourself approved. I do see that in the chat as well. So please keep that in mind. And now on to that which we are here for as well. This year has been absolutely epic and historical and historical, where our astrology and cosmology are concerned in terms of it proclaiming the status of our government and our nation. And I'll talk just a little bit about this. The comet Neowise, which means new knowledge and wisdom, returns to the Earth's atmosphere, in as much as comets do that, after 6,000 years, and that happened at the end of July this year. It signified the end of an age and the beginning of this new Moorish American era, the era and the age of Aquarius. That is all about the Moors and the revealing of the gods on the land. The stars have been proclaiming the status of our vast estate as having been returned back to us by the phenomenal number of planetary retrogrades this year as well. Planets in retrograde movement are the inverse of direct moving planets. The retrograde period pertains to the time that a planet appears to go back. Okay, and that's important when it comes to the estate. This year, planets going back point to words such as renew, reversion, as in reversion of estate, restore, regain, return, reverse, replenish, revelation, reveal, reward, remind, remember, resurrect or resurrect, results, resurge, reappear, reunite, and revenue or revenue. Planets move in a direct motion and then they slow or appear to stop stationary retrograde. This is when their force is the greatest. So this year has been very forceful with regard to all of the planets in celebration of everything that has to do with our nation and our government as well, Islam. This year, set a retrograde record, starting with Mercury going retrograde in March, which happens usually 3 to 4 times normally per year. Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn went retrograde in April, May, and June. And they don't usually go in retrograde together for various reasons because of the timing, but this year they did. Venus then went retrograde, which only happens once every 18 months or so. And on August 15th, Uranus went retrograde. Mercury moved into Leo right on time, meaning that communication and messaging has been awesome with regard to the heirs and to all that our nation is doing. We know that the cosmos has everything to do with the heirs, and so that's why we pay such close attention to it. And so again, when the planets are in retrograde, that's when their power and their force is the strongest. And it's been in our favor the entire time. Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto were all in Capricorn together this month, this August, which is amazing and phenomenal. And then Mars will turn retrograde next month, September, and Mars only goes retrograde once every 2 years. So this year, again, has been absolutely phenomenal when it comes to the cosmos and our more high sciences and the astrology, and it's all working to assist us in standing and being as powerful as we are in our sovereign status. These planetary proclamations, because that's what it is, it's the planet proclaiming that the heirs are awake. They are telling us to go back, okay? Return to the ways of our foremothers and forefathers and keep going. Never look back. That's what the retrogrades are all about. That's why there have been so many of them this year. It has everything to do with all of us. So we have to keep going back. Additionally, as we continue this grand rising, keep in mind that Mercury, which is communication, has been in peaceful opposition to Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn in this month of August. August has been a very powerful month for our nation and for our government, as have all of the others as well. This is telling us that we need to remain open to those we may not fully agree with, and this is important for our nation because we don't always agree, but we don't have to. We don't have to. What we do have to do is remain open to one another. That's what nation building is all about. Even when we disagree vehemently, sometimes we can get into some pretty spirited discussions, but as long as we keep the door open to talk again, even if it's at a later time, as a nation, our nation will keep growing and keep rising and all of that. We must remain open to one another. We must. And the ancestral energies are strongest right now because we keep doing that. This year has been a year of discussion, spirited discussion as we continue to stand, and we've remained open to one another. And that has had a huge, huge trajectory on assisting us in our moving forward and the grand rising, moving, et cetera. Okay, and so we may not fully agree with one another at all times. This energy, there's an awareness that will come to us if we're willing to see the other side and to research what we see. We have seen some things happen, and some of our Moors have gone into the testing phase, as we all will and do from time to time. But we support one another, and we allow the energies to test us so that we can become sharper and stronger and faster and better and know our sovereign authority. So there will be keys in the information that the others are giving. I have found that no matter who it is that's speaking, even if it's the Albion saying, oh, the Moors aren't this and that, At some point, they always drop one or two pieces of information out of all of that colorable craziness that we can take and use, okay? So we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. And especially among one another, we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater when we're disagreeing, because we all have keys. Every last one of us has been given some key that has to do with our nation. And if we keep listening to one another, it's going to click. We are one already. It is said that the place we fear the most holds our greatest gift. And so when we disagree and debate, a lot of times we will table the conversation and then come back to that conversation later. We have to do that. We have to be willing to keep the doors open and not be afraid to disagree. We cannot be afraid to disagree. We cannot. So disagreement does not mean argument. It means we're making progress, and that we're not thinking from programmed thinking, that we're actually discussing national issues that need to be discussed. We're going to have some discussions and some debates upcoming with regard to all that's going on, as do all governments and nations. But that just means we know we're not Negro, Black, Colored, and African American anymore. We know that we are the law. We are the government. We can have the hard conversation and still keep our nobility intact. And that brings us to where we are now. This is something to think about. Okay, what would we as the heirs do? Because this is where we are now. It's about to happen. What would we as the heirs do if all Albion and the foreigners dropped what they were doing, packed their bags, and hopped on a boat and left? Okay, after the big indigenous party, what would we do? Okay, what would our great and mighty nation do if all of the foreigners left the grocery stores? No more policy enforcers, no more corporate policy enforcers, no more pilots, Albion, the foreign pilots. Now, our pilots would stay. No more foreigners in the banking corporations, because they are gone. What would we do if they left everything running and open and walked away? Because that's actually happening right now. Many of them have already left, but the rest are on their way out. The foreign corporations and occupants, those occupying our land unlawfully. What would we do? Some Moors are afraid of that, but don't be. Don't be. What would we do? Yes, in the chat, Islam, start moving into those positions. We're already there. We're already starting to move into those positions. Space clearing, Islam, in the chat. Yes, we would go to work. And that's what we're doing now. We're already moved into those positions. Those who do law have already started judging and giving the justice on our land. Those who do metaphysical work are already doing it. Those who are working in those corporate places, they're still doing their job. And they're Moors, and they know they're Moors. Some have moved into management positions, etc., as well. They know they're Moors. So we need not fear what is happening already. It's already happening, and we don't even realize how far up we've gone, how far up we've gone and risen. And so, again, those who stand by the side and spectate and say, I see a bunch of disunity and blah, blah, blah. How about be quiet and get on in the arena and start working in your gift? Do that, like the rest of the Moors. are doing. Okay? With that's actually happening right now. And so the commerce piece, we're moving into the commerce piece as well. And we're going to be talking some more about that in the coming weeks and months, because that's going to be a lot of what we do. In the interim, continue to do the study, continue to do the demonstrations, demonstrate nationality at every turn, every chance you get, demonstrate your nationality to let them know heirs are in all territories and we're everywhere. We're everywhere and we understand all that's going on. We know how to do our jobs. Many of us come from that corporate setting and we were really good at that. We even got so bored that we ended up leaving it, because we were that good at that stuff. We needed something that was going to challenge our sovereign intellect. And there's nothing like being the law and the government on our own land and governing our own affairs that will challenge our intellect, like what we're doing right now. So let's keep going with that. This is what we would do. And those who want to respond to what would you specifically do? And I mean, it's one thing for us to respond to that question by saying, well, our nation would do this and that and the other. No, what would you specifically do if you went down the way in your territory and you went into the grocery store and no one was there working except Moors? You could only see Moors, and there's one or two Moors working there. And everyone else is gone. And the Moors are saying, well, we're going to need some help in here because we don't have, we need some help. But you must be a sovereign, original, indigenous heir in order to work in here, to get things going for our nation. That's where we are. That's where we are. Yes.
Islam?
Islam,
Empress, yes, you're so right, so correct. I'm just going to give, it was a clip from an old movie about the Civil War, and the so-called slaves, they were out there farming the fields. They were working hard and just doing what they're supposed to do. And then it was the end of the Civil War, and the quote-unquote master came out there, and he gave his big elaborate speech and what have you. And when he was done, one of the other guys said, he left, and then one of the other ones said, well, what is he talking about? The guy said, Master says you're free. And he said, oh. And they just went back to work in the field, what they had already been doing. It was their land already, but now they were already working. They just continued to work. Islam, I yield.
That's it. That's beautiful. Yes. That's actually where we are, except we're the master. I, self-law, am master. And we have set our own selves free. We set our own selves free. No one did that but the Moors, the heirs, each and every one of us, by our own demonstrations. Because, no one can enslave us without our consent, and no one can set us free. We had to do that. And that is why it's so important for us to get to work right now, Islam, to get to work right now. Those who are not working in your areas of more science or expertise, get to work. Don't just spectate and look around and say, oh, I noticed this, that, and the third. If you notice something going on in your territories, and, I hear more sometimes say, like someone was out on social media today saying, oh, why is there so much, going back and forth between this Moorish place and this Moorish temple and this Moorish, area or this Moorish organization? And so I respond, and they tagged me on it, and I responded. I said, if you see that, then your boots are supposed to be on the ground. Get your boots on the ground. Don't just look around. The ancestors have given you the sight to see that, so that you can work in unifying. So pick up your responsibilities and start unifying your nation. And I can promise you, once the work starts and each one of us gets all hands on deck, we will not have time to look around and point out who's talking about who and who said this and who said that. because it's so much work we have to do. We have a lot of work to do. What would we do? We would go into the grocery stores. We would start ordering food like we would at any restaurant, except it would be on a larger scale. Okay, so we would start taking inventory of what's there and seeing what our nation is going to need. Islam. We would see what our whole nation is going to need, and we would begin ordering. We would start taking inventory and finding out what our nation needs. We would start ringing up our own chosen non-GMO goods. We would provide our own services to one another peacefully with 100% nobility and honorable, and doing so honorably. Okay, we're there, Morris. We're there, and that's why I'm bringing it up. We would fly our own planes because we're already doing that. Just remember that. We're already doing that. There's not, again, remember that, and this is the right way to put all of that token black stuff, where there always had to be one. The reason there always had to be one when we thought we were black is because it's actually, if you turn that on its right side, we were supposed to be in every area of commerce on our land, and we were. They couldn't do anything without at least one of us seeing the process and knowing the process and being able to do the process, so that when this time came and they left, we would be able to do it competently. And let's face it, many of us, the majority of us, rolled up into those corporations and went straight to the top really quickly, knowing that we were always smarter than the ones who hired us for the most part. I'm just saying, most of us were that. We knew what to do, and we knew everybody's job around us, above us, below us, aside from us, all of that. Quickly, within a short period of time, our level of absorption of the information was on high velocity and high frequency and high vibration. And that's where we are now. We're going to be moving, continuing to move, because we're already doing it. Those who are doing court actions, we already know the law, so we're ready to go and to move into this, because court actions are actually going to be, you can't really do any commerce without doing a court action first. You can't do commerce without doing a court action first. That's the part that they did not tell you. That all of the paper that they floated around here on this land had some court action in the background. Did you know that for anyone to file corporate papers, there had to be some court actions going on? Why do you think they had a whole separate court, quote unquote, corporate court for bankruptcy, corporate bankruptcy? Because there was always court actions going on. And we didn't know it when we walked into the grocery store that they did everything by court action. Corporate court action, which is not really a court. So for those who are going to be moving into universal commerce, and we're all moving there together, the court actions are a must. And that will become clearer when you see that whole process, the commerce process. The universal commerce process must have a sovereign court action leading it. It has to, because the corporate covering must be pulled off of the resource before we can use it. So there are processes that must be in place first. Sovereign, allodial processes, nothing corporate, because it's the corporations that we're moving out of the way. We would even, if they got up and left today, which a lot of them have already done that, we would manage our water resources and electric and solar and earth and wind resources, because every last one of those resources has some of us working in them already. I talk to Morris all day, every day, whether they're awake or asleep, who are already working in nuclear and you know, natural resources, et cetera, et cetera. So again, you know, I've heard more say, well, we don't need the Albions to leave because who's going to do all that work? We are. It's our estate. It's our resources. We're already doing it. We work side by side in these corporations with these, the ones doing the work. So we actually were enslaved as well while we were learning to do things, etc. And so it's incumbent upon us to continue and bring all of our gifts and expertise to our nation, because again, we were right next to them, learning and doing, etc. All the stuff we taught them back in the day, and then they turned around and taught it to us in these corporations. It's time for us to bring that expertise right on back up, because they're leaving. And it's our turn to manage our sovereign resources. We already got it. We're already doing it. We're already managing our resources and everything. Because remember, they couldn't do anything without us and without our signatures. So, you know, we're often asked about things like conveyance insurance. Okay? Conveyance insurance has always been something that came up, and a year ago I didn't have a response to that because I didn't know, you know, we had some other things that needed to be put in place before the ancestors would give us that information. Well, now we have the information, except we must do it. So we're often asked about things like conveyance insurance. When an event happens, as we work to control the electronic movement of sovereign credits, we can send sovereign credits to the moorishe conveyance shops to restore and make whole all that may have been damaged. That is how that is to be handled with conveyance insurance. Again, when the Albions leave the insurance industry, and it's not the industry, they're going to be leaving the resources that were used in order to enact insurance. When they leave those resources, and they already are pretty much gone because we have shut all of the corporate stuff down, now it's our turn to go ahead and pick up where all of that left off. And it won't be anything, again, that we've not done before. We'll just be doing it in our lowercase letters instead of using the corporate piece. Same exact thing, just doing it in our lowercase letters. And the Moors will be fixing the conveyances or restoring whatever needs to be restored. It'll be moorishe scientists and doctors in the hospital, etc. Already there. Just know that we're already in those. We're already working in those places. We're already doing it. Those of us who are doing the court actions, and those of us who are, you know, there are Moors waiting to wake up. And we are actually doing the court actions and putting these processes in place so that when the moorishe doctors and the moorishe insurance professionals and the moorishe, the ones who are already doing all of that, when they wake up, it will be very simple, and they can keep doing what they're doing, but they'll be doing it for this nation and this government. Because they are the government too. And we have already cut that learning curve all the way off. It's very, very steep now. It's going to take them a very short while to get right on in with their nation and keep doing what they know to do. They'll just be doing it as the sovereign. Okay? So that's where we're going right now. It's important that everyone, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. And that brings me to the metaphysical. All that we're doing right now, when it's just us, we cannot be warring and bickering and arguing back and forth. That's why the metaphysical and spiritual work of being at peace is so important right now. Okay? We are the masters of peace. We are love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We can do commerce, and even get upset peacefully without going to war with one another. Let me warn you that I'm about to slaughter a sacred cow, because we talk about sacred cows all the time. And sacred cow is just some area that we did not go into because people get their feelings hurt, etc. But we are the law, we are the government, we have to have these conversations. So I'm just warning you ahead of time, we're about to slaughter a sacred cow. All who love war, there is a place and a time for that energy to manifest. It is not in daily activities with regard to governing and the law. That's not where war activity or war energy should manifest, okay? In particular, the Moors who love to war, or who if the war energy manifests improperly, you risk going to jail, okay? So Moors who have gone to jail for that, we're telling you now, you that are not in jail, don't do it. Don't war. Please don't do that, because that is not how we get things done. And again, as we are going to disagree, but we can't war on the land. We can't do it. So sacred cow, if you war, you risk going to jail for that. That cannot be. And again, we're in charge of everything. Everything. Already. We were in charge of it in our sleep, including the jails. I know that's hard for some to believe, but just keep paying attention. Islam. And that's why I know we can get ourselves out. I've done it. Many of you have done it. And when we're peaceful and we're competent, no jail can hold the Moors. None. As we stand upright, fearless, and disciplined, we, our nation, and our government will continue to take full control of all natural resources, all commerce, and all land. Yes, Islam, Justice Jermore. In the chat, the war is always in yourself. Any other method is just sleep warring. Islam, yes, absolutely. We will use our vast estate to grow our government, and this is what all of this is about, is where we're going with the resources and the commerce and the land. We're going to use it to grow our government, to assist one another, to teach, to learn, to expand, and to make every resource that our hand touches become better, stronger, faster, more peaceful, more prosperous, more advanced, easier to govern, and longer lasting for our heirs for generations to come. Many of us were concerned also about our ancestors being pleased with us, and that's valid, but our ancestors have made it very clear to me that they want us to be pleased with ourselves above all else, and that's where the honorable works and things, as we continue opening up the commerce on our land, honorability and all is going to be key. Honorability is going to be key. We are our ancestors' return. Our ancestors shall be reflected in all that we do. And in order for that to happen, we must stay tapped into their sovereign energies and records spiritually and naturally. And that's, again, what October 31st is all about, is everyone, many of us just are naturally tapped into that ancestral energy. But for those who are finding it a little bit more challenging to tap into that energy, September 11th, again, and it should be on the screen. Let me make sure that it's on the screen. Yes, it is. September 11th, nationwide fast. And fasting can be however you choose to do it, whether it be fasting from meat, fasting from sugar, fasting from food, period, and just doing a water fast. And it's from sun to sundown on September 11th. Whatever you want to fast from, or however you're led to fast, feel free to do so. For some, it's going to be just fasting from popping off at the mouth, you know, because some of us, we real split mouth. And so we need to work on that part. And for others, it's going to be fasting from, you know, from anything that's not peaceful. So however you're led to fast, because again, we make suggestions, but we can't tell sovereigns what to do. Sovereigns must be led by their own ancestral and higher selves, okay? Which brings me to one of our most important points as well. The spirituality of any sovereign nation and government will always manifest in its politics and its culture. The word culture has derivatives that we use frequently when talking about our land and growth, and that which is genetically interwoven into our nation and our government. One such word is cultivate, which means to create the most optimum environment for growth. And cultured, which means refined, accomplished, erudite, and polished. The culture of a nation stems from that which said nation has focused on, has cultivated, and even in some cases has worshipped. The root word of culture and cultivate is cult, which means to worship. What have we been worshiping as a people? If we've been worshiping things that were presented or represented rather by foreigners, then our true culture will be absent. And that's why some of us don't even know what clothes, what apparel we wear. Some don't know, like when I first nationalized, I didn't know how to tie a turban because I had never worn a turban before. I was corporate up until I nationalized. To the day I nationalized, I had a corporate mentality. And then right after wake up, it switched like somebody hit a light switch. So if we've been worshiping domiciles or houses as built by foreigners, then our true, ancient, lasting Al-Moroccan architecture will not be visible to us. But instead we'll be stuck with square boxes that are cookie cutter and far beneath our highest standards for that which the heirs deserve. And what do we see all over our land? Exactly. Box cookie cutter domiciles that, that are not our highest self. Okay, our culture is not reflected in the domiciles, in the majority of the domiciles on our land. And that's how we know it's time for us to get to work. Time for the heirs to do what we do best. Okay, and again, spiritually, we have to be ready to work with one another without warring with one another. We can't war. It's something that our ancestors have said we cannot do. Therefore, our culture is a natural outgrowth of what we place value and attention and resources on. It's a product of that which we may worship. And worship, we know it doesn't mean what they told us it meant. It is actually, vowels are interchangeable, worship. And so, and as heirs, we know we don't worship anything or anyone, because who does God worship? Who does God worship? This is proof that our politics and culture has spiritual and metaphysical roots. Therefore, all that we manifest is a reflection of our spiritual focus. Some attempt to manifest by works, by a checklist that they think when completed, they feel that they deserve the estate. But that is only 1/100th of the spiritual work that needs to be done. We as a nation and government must expand our spiritual lives so that our manifestations will be exactly as we envisioned. Throughout the ages, we've always been the most powerful manifestors. Not only has that not diminished, but it has increased exponentially even this year with all of the cosmological advances and things that have been going on. Our power, our force, our authority, our sovereign status has increased significantly, exponentially this year within each one of us, and as a nation and as a government. And so with that increase, that exponential increase, that happened because we returned all our focus back to our ancient foremothers and forefathers who ruled and reigned and who continue to rule and reign to this very day through us, Islam. And with that, I yield the floor for any comments or questions that you may have about processes that we are currently doing. Again, everyone, please, and again, this is a suggestion, to put the sovereign corporate termination of corporate contracts on the public record, because that's going to be something that is a baseline or foundational document as we proceed into universal commerce. Islam.
Empress. Just
Islam.
want to make a comment about with reference to not warring with each other. One of the key things to remember as far as when our communication, when we're talking with each other, when the one more is speaking, sometimes people don't listen. They just wait till it's their time to talk, okay? So they're not really hearing what the other person is saying, not really listening to them, and listening to them with the love, truth, freedom, peace, and justice, you know, coming from their heart. I don't have the best of hearing as everybody else, but whatever I do hear, I try to listen well to the other person, and when you're listening to them, then after they're done, okay, and they're finished talking, because I noticed that, and there's some conversations that I've just noticed, and I've done this in the past myself, is that you don't listen, and so then you're responding to something, or you're coming back defensively to something, and you're stating things that other person did not even say, okay? So a lot of time it's our interpretation or how we take things, and we just have to be patient and loving with each other. And when you're dealing with each other and another more, just think about yourself, okay? So just think about if that were you, what, you know, you would want somebody to empathize with you, you'd want somebody to listen to you, you would want to feel that what you're saying is important, okay? So that's what I just wanted to throw out there. That'll eliminate a lot of that, you know, that tension and friction. And then even if we disagree, okay, we can, like I said, we agree to disagree. But okay, so we won't. Okay, you stand on this point, I stand on this point. We still love each other, and we're going to go on. And we just maybe at another time, another date. But what I found is sometimes I may disagree. Okay, and I'll hold my peace. Okay, the reason I'll do that is because I wait and see, and because a lot of times it'll come all the way back around, and then I'm like, oh my goodness, what I disagreed with is actually I'm finding that they were saying the same thing I was saying. It was just in a different way, and I just had to wait till that time because I don't know everything. My understanding is limited in a lot of things, so I'll have to take the time, go into my meditation, spend my time with the ancestors, and seek them on those things. So if we do that, hey, we will have no problem. We will still disagree. Like I said, we will have those, but there's always, I'm one of those feel there's a solution to every problem. I don't care what it is. We can always find a right, and we can find a middle. We can always meet and find that middle ground. We find what we do agree on, and that's how we get along, and we can be harmonious that way. Peace and love.
Islam, Empress. Islam, yes, Islam. Absolutely. We're going to have, and this, again, some might think that this is Nation Building 101, and it kind of is. The reason we're having these conversations right now is because things are going to get, we're going to have the tough conversations where resources are concerned, where court actions and things are concerned, and as we move forward in commerce, we're going to have, and so we're preparing for that so that we can do so peacefully. Okay, there will be no Albion intermediaries. The intermediaries are not on the land. They don't exist.
Islam.
Everything we do,
Islam.
Yes.
I just want to speak on war. Speaking all wars. As we are looking at what's going on today, everybody's preparing for war. If we have to war with the Albions, we wouldn't stand a chance. I mean, we are not focused on war. The Moors are not focused on war. Whether you're awoke or whether you're asleep, we are not focused on war. We are out dancing, still playing dominoes, doing all kind of fun things to try to curb from war. But, I mean, the ancient scriptures speak of Armageddon, and I focus on war to prepare for it, and I hope it's not bad karma thinking that way, preparing for war, because I don't know. The ancestors haven't told me that it's going to be war, and they have not said it will not be war. So I just want to put that out there, because the ancient scriptures speak about Armageddon, and we see people preparing for war even today in our lives. Islam, I yield.
Islam. Yes. Yes.
Just want to make a little observation. Right at the beginning of this, right at 6 o'clock, across the street, the neighbors, an altercation erupted. There was a group of people supposed to be having a party. In about 3 minutes, there were 6, 7, or 8 policy enforcer cars around, and they were all strapped. And the neighbors, several of them were strapped. I went out and stood on the porch where I could watch everything that was going on, right by the flag. So everybody that was in the altercation know about the flag and pay attention to it. All the policy enforcers, they came in there strapped, and then guess what? None of them parked on the street. They parked on the other streets, and 1 or 2 of them walked over to the place there, started to talk. We talked with them, and the tone started to go down. 1 more policy enforcer stepped in and started to talk and take some statements. Everybody else left. The ones that were strapped, they said they were, and he said, "Hey, you know, while we're here, we got to move those things out the way." Okay, took out the weapon he had. One of them had what would normally be a 6 or 7 shot thing, but he had an extra magazine, and this thing looked like it had about 30 shots in it. But they handed over the stuff. The policy enforcer took it into his car, came back, talked with them, and in a few minutes, just because the calm was being put over there, everybody was quiet and talking and then laughing and having fun. Policy enforcers, one by one, got in their cars, took off. Right now, it's as if nothing happened. That is the story of just the last hour. Exactly the last hour. Because it's 7 now. Islam.
Peace is already on the land. We're here. We're awake. We are the peace. And it's actually energy. It's peace energy. Peace energy there are no boundaries for peace energy. No wall can hold peace energy. Just as Jeremiah stood out watching peacefully. And guess what? Peace manifested over there. That's how this works. That is how this works. Peace manifested over there. Islam.
So that's how it works. So you're saying, Empress, that by standing in a area where there is war's being tossed into the air, but because of you standing there peacefully, you saying war will not happen? Is that what you're saying?
Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we, who are the sovereign heirs, are the love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice on this land. And now that we know that, do you know what the word war really means? Because war does not mean what they told us it meant, just so that you're aware. War means confusion. Confusion. Look it up. War means confusion. And we're no longer confused about who we are. Now, with regard to the example that Justice Giramore gave, he stood off, away from the confusion, and he stood and observed. That is enough for the peaceful energies to go right on over into that confusion and stop it. That's enough for it to stop it. It happens all the time. When the airs are peaceful, the whole earth will be peaceful. When people said that they wanted peace on earth, they're really saying we want the moorishe heirs to please wake up. War is not what they told us. See, they put the guns and all of that stuff, they put all of that stuff on out on the television, and they just saturated everything we saw and read and everything with guns, 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 and they called that war. That's not the war. That's a distraction. It's confusion, so it is war, but it's a distraction. That's not where the real fight, so to speak, was. The real fight was in our minds. That's why they saturated it with that instead of what the real deal is. The real deal is our
Islam.
Yes, go ahead, Justice Giramore.
To camel back on what you're saying right there. And there was war in heaven. And the devil and his angels and the other ones. But all of the wars that are in heavens are in our own minds. You exactly said it. That is the war, because it's in our minds. And so while we're confused, we are warring against ourselves because we don't know it. And once we become aware of it and wary of it, then we start being ourselves. At that time, there's no more war in heaven. The devil is cast down and, in fact, comes back up and say, hey, let's have some fun. That's when at-one-ment happens. Islam.
Do anyone have the definition of war?
Islam.
They can read it on?
Yes, I have it right here.
Could you read it, please?
Someone else read it, because I have it here, but I'd love to hear from other Moors who have their dictionaries with them. Islam. The definition of war is what he wanted to know, and we want an older dictionary and an older, preferably what they call
definition or etymology.
Yes, yes, yes. Anyone want to tackle that? If not, I'll do it. Okay.
I'm pulling it up, Empress.
Yes, go ahead, Justice. We'll wait for him to pull that up.
It would be very good to know the definition of the word with all this confusion, if that's what it means, in our present, in our lives, and with the killing of our people, the protesters, the fighting going on in the streets now. It's leading that way from what I'm saying. So to clear it up, the word of war would help me look at it a different way.
Yes.
I might help somebody else
go ahead
also.
And read it. Yes, Islam, you will. That's
Islam.
For sure. Go ahead, Justice.
I have it on eddymon.com, Eddymon Online. It says, late Old English, were is large-scale military conflict. Old French, war, difficulty, dispute, hostility, fight, combat, war. Frankish, werda, Proto-Germanic words, to confuse, perplex, from Pi words, to confuse, mix up. Cognate suggests the original sense was to bring into confusion. Islam.
Islam. Islam. Islam means confusion. Go ahead, Justice. Yes, go ahead, Empress.
A very similar definition is in a Webster's New World Dictionary, third college edition. Same thing. It's a noun, Middle English, confusion, strife, akin to, Old High German, to confuse, open armed conflict between countries or between factions within the same country, any active hostility, contention, or struggle, a battle, military operations, Islam.
And notice in that she did not say armed conflict between nations and governments. She said armed conflict between countries, which is, we're not a country because country is corporate. Nations and governments do not do that. We don't do that. We have a place for the war energy to go. That's what a military is for. A military, go ahead, Empress. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Okay, there's a bit of an echo. Nations and governments is not mentioned not one time in any of those definitions.
Islam.
Not once. There's a reason for that. That's by design. Okay? They know that a competent nation and government won't have to do that.
Islam, and nor did it say combat. I don't think I heard that.
Nor did it say what, Justice?
Physical combat, hand-to-hand combat. Physical combat.
Yes.
It didn't say that.
Yes, correct. Yes,
Islam.
that is correct. Islam, Justice, go ahead.
Yeah, basically is the base of confusion, discord, strife, warn, bringing into confusion, to confuse, perplex,
yes.
or worse.
Yes.
That's the basic meaning of it. And also when we read that there was a war in heaven, we're talking about the spiritual war in the mind. When you defeat, you win the spiritual war in your mind, then the devil was cast out of your mind back down to the surface of physicality, where we exist on the spiritual plane. Once we win our birthright back, our nationality, our heritage, our spirituality, we become spiritual beings. So the only way you can war with us is on the spiritual level, because we're on a higher faculty than the earthly plane. We are spiritual beings manifested into a physical body.
Yes.
Islam, I yield.
Islam. Justice, thank you for that, Justice. That is absolutely true and correct and competent. Islam, as have been the other comments as well. Justice Yurjarel, what you said there is so key that it's just unbelievable. When in the Bibliotheliotech it said, let us go down and confuse the language was used to war against the heirs.
Exactly.
That's where the real war was. I stopped in the middle of one of my sentences because I was about to say that the real war was a war of words. That's where the real war was. And now that we have our own ancient English and we return back to the language of our foremothers and forefathers, there's no more war. Because when we spell the way we choose to spell, then we get to determine what that means. We get to determine what it means. No one else gets to make that determination. Islam, Justice General. And that means the war is over. Okay, go ahead, Justice General. Sorry.
To camel back on that, this war in the heavens.
If you read the treaty.
Go ahead.
It's your friend. This war in the heavens is because of connotative linguistics. We go out and because what we think is what we create, that's the reason why we want to go get guns and stuff, because we think that war means getting things to defend or attack physically. When, again, war, confusion is settled by knowing self. Because when you know how you operate, there is no possibility of confusion with self. Because you know that everything does what it is designed to do, how and when it's designed to do it, and can all work in perfect harmony. There's no confusion then. That is why half the story was taught in the churches, but they always told it in the physical realm, so people never could get that, hey, it's their own minds that's causing the things to happen. Always, what we outpicture is what we're going after, and that person that we don't like that we're talking to, and the things we don't like that we talk about, that is what we are outpicturing about ourselves. And we don't like it so much and try to run away from it, so we try to give it to somebody else. It is always self who's causing the war with self. It cannot happen any other way. Islam.
Islam. Islam. Islam. Islam. Islam.
Islam. Islam. Justice, that is so true. I want to say something about that, because if you walk away, you have to do war with no one. So you start the war once you start engaging in it. You start the war. You start, get involved in. But I agree with what you said. You made a point right there I'm trying to touch on. You have to physically put your hands. But I agree with what you said, Justice Gilmore. You hit it right on the head. Islam.
Islam. Islam. And so, again, with that whole war piece, we're the peace on the land. And anytime we go into any place, the energies in that place are going to mimic what we bring. And it's only what the airs bring that causes the energies to do what they do. Competent airs bring peace energy no matter where they go. Not only do they bring peaceful energy, but they bring competent energy where the law is concerned. And everything, the law is everything. It's everything. The sovereign supreme law for the land is everything. And so that's, again, why it's so important as we move forward and as we continue standing and as we are moving into full-fledged control of our vast estate, that we keep these principles in mind. And the metaphysical and the spiritual is the most important part of all of this, because our energies depend on it. Our energies dictate the rest of the energy on the earth. That is why no matter where we go, if we go into a place and there are albions in that place, wherever it is, grocery store, corporate setting, whatever it is, whatever energy we bring, they're going to mimic that energy. When we're peaceful, they're going to be peaceful. We start warring, guess what? They start warring. We see it every day where Moors are concerned. When you see those videos where Moors are getting their windows smashed out, it's because the words are war words. And they may not feel that they're warring. The heirs may not feel that they're warring. But because they're using a certain language and speaking to the dead using that language, that is confusion. That's confusion. The real war was with the words. That's why we don't have to say anything to them. All we do is put the real right words on the public record. And when you put the right words on the public record, the public servant checks the public record and he goes and finds the public. He don't find the heirs. We're on our way. We keep it moving. They don't bother the heirs. They go find a citizen somewhere. and deal with citizens the way they deal with citizens. We're not citizens, so they won't deal with us that way. A lot of Moors don't believe that, but stop warring and see. Put that to the test. Islam. So as we continue to move into universal commerce, and we're, again, over the next, it's probably going to be another 3 weeks before we put the process out there for what we're doing in terms of us peacefully, competently moving into universal commerce. But again, you cannot move into universal commerce if you do not know how to do court actions. And those who are doing the court actions will be some of the first ones that we work with in terms of getting the universal commerce going, because that has to be done. It must be done. It has to be done that way because that's actually how they did everything. Before they could take over any resources, take over control of any resources, they had to do some fake court actions. That's why they, in 1954 and 1956, they were so eager to get those concert courts closed. And then everything went on high. Same thing back in the 1920s and 30s. 1920s and 30s, once they got the Prophet out of the way, Prophet Noble Drew Ali out of the way in 1929, then everything went on high. They got that Federal Reserve piece up and going. 1933 happened where they did their House Joint Resolutions 192 and all of that trash. And all of that. And then the corporate began moving the way corporates move with fake fiat and all of that other stuff. Okay. So the termination of corporate contracts and the court actions are a must for moving into moving into universal commerce where the heirs are concerned. Okay.
Islam.
Go ahead, Justin.
Is there a template for the court actions and the termination of the corporate contract is on Facebook only? In my case, do I have to send that to the 7 locations or to the people like the mortgage company, the light bill company, and all that to make
Once you put it on the public record. For example, if you put it on Facebook on moorishe American Consulate Public Records page, that's a public records page because we say it is, and the public servants need to be checking it.
All right, now, if they don't check it, will they show up at my house or something? I mean...
Always demonstrate at the level of your overstanding.
So if they do show up at my house...
Why would they show up there? Why? Because they think there's a citizen there.
The same reason they'll turn out my lights if I don't pay the...
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So
because they think there's a citizen there.
So if I let them know, how do I let all of them know there's no citizen here? That whereas they won't go to the public record. How is it? I just have to inform them. Is that correct?
You do the study.
Don't overthink it more.
And you actually, yes, he actually answered his own question.
Yeah,
you answered your own question, Nobility.
Yeah, I know. I'm just a little insecure. That's what that is. But yeah, I got it. But if they don't, because I'm gonna do it. But is there a court template for the court action?
Yes, the template is go out onto YouTube and look at the court actions that are out there. And I'm going to mute you for just a moment, Nobility, but you know how to star 6 to unmute because it's echoing really badly. I know you're probably in your super cool conveyance, but star 6 to unmute when you get ready to speak again. the court actions template is, first, Moorishe American Consulate, Arizona Territory has a template there. They have, just a moment. Moorishe American Consulate, Arizona Territory page has a scriptum for the court actions that you can use. Empress Malo came up with that awesome script, and many more are using that script. And then if you want to see how those just one moment. And then when if you want to know how to use those, how to say the scriptum and how to use it, the script that was given on Moorishe American Consulate AZ, Arizona page, go out onto YouTube to Tajiri Bay and look at some of the court actions that are out there. And for those who may not have access to Moorishe American Consulate on Facebook, if you just go to YouTube and go to Tajiri Bay and write down the scriptum that is used there as well, you can do your own court action. Okay? So yes, Empress Genesis, do you want to say a little bit about that in the chat, that you put in the chat?
Islam, Grand Rising. This is Empress Genesis, Peoria, Illinois Territory. I was just speaking that we do have mock courts. So if you want to do a test run, or, to get yourself more comfortable, you can schedule a mock court, and we will, all the justices will be there to help you. Not all of them, but Justice Malo, most definitely. And myself, I'm assisting her. So we do have mock court to help those who really don't feel comfortable or don't really know. And then the scriptum is there to help out with that.
Islam.
Yes, and with that I yield.
Islam. Thank you.
Go ahead, Justice.
Yeah, I got you. I'm just got to do my study. That's all. I got to figure it out.
Yes.
Islam.
Yes. Islam. Go ahead, Justice.
Islam. I'm calling from the territory of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Have a question regarding how to upload documents to the Facebook page, and also how do you get the M number for that document? Is that M number created from the poster, or is it a number that the consulate gives, or how does that happen?
Well, you can. Do you have a consulate number, a MAC number, a Moorishe American Consulate number?
No.
Okay. If you don't have a Moorishe American Consulate number, you can always lowercase MACW and then remove the dashes from the Social Security number, and then it becomes a number issued by you, the government, a sovereign security number. And so you put MACW and then your sovereign security number with no dashes, because that's a math problem that creates debt. Okay, a lot of people don't know that Social Security number, the reason it's a debtor number is because it's a math problem, and it's always going to leave you with a negative number. We don't use those. We use the creditor piece. And so as the creditors, what we do is we issue the number with no dashes, and we put a prefix of MAC, and it can be MACW or MACN for Moorishe American Consulate West. But the MACN and MACW, or whatever territory you're in, will be in all lowercase letters. Okay? And so in order to upload the documents to that Moorishe American Consulate public records page, all you do is scan your documents in, and if you have a printer at home, you can scan them in, and then upload your electronic document to the Moorish American Consulate page. So again, for the document number, you can do MACW or MACN, or whichever territory you're in, and you can then add a document number to that. So, for example, if you
go under this.
You said it already.
If your, let's just say your MACN sovereign or MACW sovereign security number is 123456789, then your document number would be MACW in all lowercase letters 123456789 underscore or space 0001. That will be your document number, or whatever number of document it is. It can be 00010 if it's the 10th document that you've uploaded, etc. So you can assign your own document numbers when you're using a sovereign security number. And again, those sovereign security numbers is issued by this government, which is you. And that's why it does not have any dashes in it, because it is a creditor number and not a debtor number. Okay,
Islam.
so let's not be confused about that. Islam.
Well, something else, something must be inserted between the MACW, MACN, or whatever. Otherwise, when we are using all numbers, it will generate a double number for somebody else. It will come along many times later on. So to make sure it doesn't happen, there must be something inserted between the MAC and the number. It will happen, not a case of might happen if that doesn't happen. That's something to separate or to show that it's a different number generated.
With the odds and.
Okay. They can put an underscore. They can put a plus sign.
Absolutely, underscore or plus or whatever. But some sign must be put in there. And because some of the ones who think they're doing things right now will, and I'm talking about the little rat in the background. They'll try to make it stuff like that. Islam.
But Islam.
Yeah, we're not worried about them, but go ahead, Empress.
Yeah, well, Islam. But what you're talking about as far as using their what they call a social security number, so you're using it as a creditor number for you without any dashes. Everybody has a unique one, so the number should not come around again.
Lorraine,
so,
is that you, Lorraine, Janelle?
Yes.
Lorraine, excuse me, Lorraine.
Yes, that's my. Thank you for honoring my mother with my birth appellation. Thank you. But if they use those MACN or MACW, they don't have to actually put anything in between there, because, like I said, everybody has a unique number when it comes to that.
They do.
That's just how it is. So you know, I'm just putting that out there. You know,
when the
that makes complete sense, and that's hold on for just a moment. Empress Malo, you're absolutely right, and they can do that. That is absolutely correct, because everyone has a different sovereign security number. It's going to be different, and they must be taken back, just like we take our names, our appellations back, and we take our status back, and we take all of that back from the corporate. We can take back the sovereign security number as the creditor and leave that debtor piece alone. So absolutely,
Islam.
and they are all unique. Islam.
The point is not that two people will produce it themselves. It's that if you're using the MACN, MACS, MACW, or any of those ahead, when that particular area, territory will generate a number that is going to be one of those numbers at some point. And not one, but all of them, because we have well over 100 million people here. So That's why something must be inserted to differentiate. Otherwise, down the line, we will cause problems for others, which will not be that easy to solve. It's easy to solve now by not starting it and by doing something with it. And yes, I hear what's being said, but I generate numbers and I find out how they come up. And it does come up. Not just once, many times. Islam. Because it's different sources that are doing it. There's the Moorish American consulate doing it, and there's each being doing it. Yeah. Eventually, yes, they will mix. It's not that you can create somebody else's, but you know, it is.
He was asking about document numbers. And at this point, a document number with a sovereign security number is not going to be the same. It's just not going to be the same.
It's fine.
So, because that's now you're into a series of 16 numbers, or 15 numbers, or 14 numbers, and you know the chances of that duplicating on a massive scale is it's not going to happen.
Islam.
Go ahead, Empress.
I'd like to make a suggestion on that subject. I think that the suggestion or the idea of an insertion of one digit is not a bad idea, and it would also distinguish that the number was not issued by the consulate, as opposed to the sovereign generating the sovereign number themselves.
Power to the policy enforcers.
Islam. That's my suggestion.
Islam.
Go ahead,
Islam.
I was hoping the Empress was done. I didn't want to cut her off. What I was thinking was, since we're using the sovereign security number, that is a unique number, and that number is, if we're taking that number back, then we don't have to have that. I mean, we don't have to have other numbers as our MAC number. Now, I have a different MAC number because I got it done through a consulate, but I can, like with the consulate here, MAC Pi, I can put the same sovereign security number with that, and it will be my sovereign security number, not my MAC number. So I think that's what the Noble was asking, if we're going to put a MAC number on it, or if we're going to put a sovereign security number on it, and he can, it's just like you said, Empress, he can do it either way.
Well, that's the point I was
It's the same number.
Making here. Hold on for just a moment. The point I was making is MAC numbers are assigned by Moorish American consulate justices, whoever is doing that, whoever is the consulate post head.
Can you tell everybody why you removed from the MAC
number? The MAC numbers are assigned by Moorish American consulate consular post heads. So the MAC number is not a number that someone can just make up and use, but that's the purpose of the sovereign security number is the sovereign security number. Everyone knows their sovereign security number already, and it is unique to each one of us already. And so the point of the consulate is not to control anything. It is actually to allow to show the sovereigns that they can do whatever they need to do in and of their own authority and sovereign right. And so that's what sovereign security number, the introduction of the sovereign security number is all about, okay? That's what the sovereign security number is all about, is everyone knows their sovereign security number already, and they can use it and then begin assigning their documents, numbers, etc. They don't have to wait for anything or anyone to begin exercising their sovereign right. That's what this is all about. Is we're not trying, the consulate is not here to control everything that's being done. In fact, it's just the opposite. We're here to empower and not even to empower. You empower yourself We're actually here to point the way to empowerment.
Pauline was stripped from her power.
And that's what we and that's why we do what we do. You know. So Moors can have the, you know, they can again, a sovereign security number is a number that everyone knows. It's unique to everyone, and we need to take that back just like we took everything else back. We need to take that back because that is the number of the creditor, not the debtor. The creditors have a sovereign-born name, okay, that was given by their sovereign mother whose stargate they came from. Okay. Ooh, I can't mute him fast enough. Each one of the heirs has. I didn't really want to lock the meeting. I'm not going to lock it because they're not going to have us to lock out not even one more. I'll just keep muting him and shutting him down. It's actually putting a little muscle on my finger, so it's all good. And so each one of us has a sovereign-born name that our sovereign mother gave us upon crowning the Stargate, and
Pauline is
that along with the sovereign security number, it will match. It will match as issued by this government, which is you all. The heirs issue their own because all are part and parcel for their sovereign government. Okay, so that's where we are with that. And then that way, when you issue the sovereign security number, you can then put a plus or a or any type of
tell everybody it's a call,
you know,
Pauline.
an underscore. Or a plus sign, and then assign your documents a number. Islam.
Islam.
I did.
Islam.
Islam.
Empress Valerie first. Hold on for just a moment. Empress Valerie first, and then Empress Shade.
I uploaded my termination of corporate contract last week. But I didn't assign it a MAC number or my sovereign security number. So
that's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's fine. And see, the government is the holder of, all governments are the holders of their own records. You're the government, so you have a copy. You see? So all Moors should have a copy of all of their documents that they put out there. You should never depend on anyone else to hold your government documents. And if you know the difference between your documents, then you're good. It's good to have good record keeping. And you could always assign a number now to your documents as you place them in your files or your electronic files, etc. You can always assign a number that way as well, even after you publish them.
Islam, thank you.
Islam, yes, Islam. Empress Shade? I keep mispronouncing.
Islam. Yeah, I just
Islam
want to say about a couple of processes that I'm doing. I don't know if anyone else has done it yet, but I did a sovereign copyright on those war names, and then I also, along with the Social Security and reassigning that number, I also did that to the one on the birth certificate, because if I'm not mistaken, that was the trust that they were using the Social Security account to access the trust that was on the birth certificate. So I took that one over as well and reassigned that number. As well, so they could just stop using that too. I yield.
If that is a process that you want to do, you're sovereign and you can do that. Those numbers and all of that comes with that, we're not, as we continue to stand, we're not even going to need them. So what we do is, we lean them, and when you lean them using the affidavit process, not their forms, not their fake forms. Because, again, we're done with them and with capitalism. It's a wrap. They're finished. We're going to let them go. But when we lean the social with the dashes and the all caps name, and also the subject name, which has one capital letter at the beginning. When we lean that, there's a question on the written universal sovereign lien affidavit that tells you that it's put into a trust, okay? It's put into an allodial sovereign trust, which means they can't go into that trust and use it. And so anytime they try to use it, you do a court action and a lien on them. And then after you do the lien and the court action, you do a CEO affidavit saying, okay, there's a court action on the public record. I'm the CEO of the resources that you're using, so you can't use those either. And now we're going to use them, however we choose to use them or see fit to use them. You know.
Islam?
Islam.
Yes, I'm looking for the CEO affidavit, and I'm wondering where I can find that.
If you go to Moorish American Consulate Public Records page, there are many of them on that page. I've placed some on that page as well. And what I will do is place a link to a sovereign CEO document that I've done recently under this video on YouTube.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Under the YouTube video. Let me just make a note of that as well. And then what I'll do is I'll start putting any documents that we mention, I'll put links to the ones that we've placed on the public record. I'll put links to them under the video so that you all can see how they look. And I may, in some cases, I'll put a template there that you can download, but in other cases, it'll be one that you can copy and personalize it and make it your own. Okay? So sovereign CEO document will go on YouTube under this video for today as soon as we put it out on the public record within the next 24 to 48 hours. Islam. Are there any other questions? Moors, listen, yes, the governor document, it's already out there on Moorish American Consulate Public Record, but I can put, let me see, I'll put that one out there as well. Again, we are the sovereign everything. The bays are the governors. The bays are the law. The bays are the land. Everything. The postmaster. We are the all. All they did was, you know, try to take a sovereign office, etc. Justice Apollo, did you have something you wanted to say? Because I'm hearing a little bit of background noise, and that's why I'm muting occasionally. If I hear background noise from some, or it's like if someone comes up on the meter, so please don't take the muting personally, please. We're just trying to make sure that we can hear each other and keep these recordings as clear as possible so that when they go out on the public record, the Moors can get the information that they need. So we'll put those under this video as well. Are there any other questions, comments? Listen, Moors, we've got this already. It's a wrap. The Albions are bags packed, and many of them have already jumped onto the boat and headed on out of here. So we have to, we are already in our rightful place. We're already that. We're already a nation. We're already the government. Been that, never was not that. And so we are now beginning to move back into sovereign commerce the way that we did it and the way that our ancestors did it previously. So we're right now putting the foundational pieces in place to move into universal commerce. And again, those documents must be on the public record in order for us to do that, and sovereign court actions as well. Any other questions, comments, et cetera, et cetera?
Islam. In terms of the Albions leaving, I've been watching videos in Los Angeles is empty and Manhattan is emptying out. So that's just a comment.
Yes. And those resources belong to the heirs. But there is a way to do it so that it's not any type of a bum rush or something like that. And I don't mean bum rush, but I mean, for lack of a better word, the way we enter into the commerce must be organized. It must be well put together, and the processes are already in place. All we have to do is stay together as a nation, and we got this already. We already know how to do all the stuff. We know how to use the systems and the platforms. All of that stuff is easy. We already know how to do it, and anything that we don't know how to do individually, there's someone in our nation who knows how to do it already, and they're already doing it, to include banking and all of that as well. Okay, there's not a single one of us that does not know how to sit down in front of a terminal, a computer, or something, and figure out how to make our way through the system. There's none of us that don't know how to do that, and so we're moving in that direction. They are moving out, and many have already moved out. We've got this, heirs. I'm just so excited for us because this is the first time in our lifetime that we've been here, and we're fully competent. That's the part that excites me the most, is we're fully competent. All we have to do is keep going and keep the energies right, and keep things well with one another. If you get into a situation or a debate or a spirited conversation with one of the other Moors, give it some breathing room and then make it right. Make it right. It's okay to apologize to one another. I do it, and you can ask the judiciary. I've done it, and I don't have a problem doing that because I know that there are bigger fish to fry than our feelings. That's why we don't do feelings and beliefs. We do the law. But in the interim, we're honoring each other and being noble in all and honorable in all that we do. Go ahead, Justice.
Yes, Kimberly Albega, and you're in Orlando, Florida territory. I have a question.
Yes.
There was a Moorish empress that wrote a writ of affidavit, to the Union Corporate State Policy agents, such as the County of Sheriff, Police, and also the State Attorney. I'm trying to do the same thing for this state as much as other states. So if you know who she is, I can get her email, or she can get my email, and we can talk on those and how she proceed to do those, so I can introduce the same thing.
Yeah, okay, so here's what we will do. We will guide you to the Moorish American Consulate Public Records page and have you look through the records there, and most likely you can connect with her there, because all of those documents there are thousands of documents there, but you can see who put them there and the title of the documents, etc. So just look for the document that's with the title that fits what you're looking for, and you'll be able to find out who wrote it and everything, how it looks. You can copy it, you can download them and everything. So there are thousands and thousands of documents on Moorish American Consulate Public Records page. Any document that you're looking for is there at least 10 times. At least 10 times.
The reason why I inquired, because I remember I was on the meeting that time, and I heard her actually traveling through that particular state, and there was policy enforcers following her and did not interfere with her. So she had good results. So that's the reason why I want to contact the press so that you know her. Plus, I want to give her some funds for her time. So I'm willing to give her energy back for consulting to me on that. Also, I have another question. I know you with the Navy Federal Credit Union. I think now they call it Navy Federal. I noticed they drop off the credit union. What's the status on that? I know that you was working on that, and I'm also one of the members of that, so I want to know the update to that, if any.
Okay, so whenever we take over a any of the corporations, here's the process and the result of that, and what we do after that. The process is we lien them, we notify them, we lien them, we notify them of a court action, and we do the court action to remove the corporate covering off of the resource. And then, and I've done that with Navy Federal Credit Union as well. And then once we do the court action, we do a sovereign CEO document saying that we are the CEO of the resources that they've been using. And so when we remove the corporate covering, a lot of times what happens is they will say, okay, we're closing because of COVID-19. That's what they've been doing lately. But in the case of some of them, they will stay open for the citizens to finish up whatever it is and to close out whatever it is they're doing. And then a third option that they take is, and it's not even an option, they if they feel like we're not ready to take over that and start doing the actions and things that are necessary, they'll attempt to continue working in as much as they can, but they really kind of can't. So they'll slow everything down, like with the Postal Service, how they are saying that they slowed everything down, et cetera. They can't really do anything because the heirs have stepped in and taken that piece over, and we also are competent at using the Postal Service the post office without them. And so the same thing with the banking. I lowercased it, and then I began converting debt to credit. And that's a process that we're going to be introducing to the nation in about probably anywhere from 30 to 45 days. We're going to be introducing that process to the nation. Because when we convert the debt to credit, the same way that they took the creditor name and they capitalized it and then they got us to consent to it, well, we don't need their consent to do any of that. We just have to know where the debt is, and we've already been given the back end of all debt. So there's no debt that we don't know about. We just have to dig for it and look for it. And then when we find the debt, there's a way that we can change the debt into credit and deposit the credit into the bank account in all lowercase letters. Okay, so Navy Federal has the way that we use it is we use it in all lowercase letters, and we keep records of all of the deposits that go in there, the sovereign credits that go in there. And what happened was when we did that, the first time that we notified them that we had done that, some other information was made available to us where we could use a bigger institution. Once we did the same thing, which is remove the corporate covering, we were able to, we were given access on the back end so that we could do that on a massive scale. Okay, so that's what happened with Navy Federal is we did a couple of transactions with regard to the sovereign, all lowercase Navy Federal, which we keep. We're in charge of that, and we notified them that we've done that. And when we did that, we were given the back end information to a bigger piece.
Islam?
And that bigger piece that we got the information from is what we're going to be introducing in about 45 days. But we are in the process now. The Judiciary 2, Part 2, is working on processes where that is concerned, because it all ties into universal commerce and how that's going to be done, whereby the Moors are in charge of everything. And as we show competence in the areas, the new information is given and the next level is given to see if we know what to do with that. And when we show that we are competent with that, they give us another piece to the puzzle. And so we're going to keep moving in that manner. So that's what happened with Navy Federal is we've made we did the reversion of the state, but we did it with the finance piece. And we've been given a bigger piece to the puzzle because our puzzle never ends. It never ends. We're so wealthy, it's just unbelievable, but we have to be competent at governing that. And so that's what we're making our way through right now. We're just making our way through those processes and showing that we're competent one level at a time, okay? And then we'll be introducing as we go those processes to the nation so that those who have done the termination of corporate contracts and the court actions can then move to universal commerce, the universal commerce piece. And in the interim, while we're working through that process, continue doing your demonstrations, setting yourself free, doing your court actions, doing your liens, etc., and your sovereign CEO documents, etc. And again, as you're doing these things, ensure that you include all Moors so that we're still moving as a unit together. Islam.
Yes. See, so you be getting information on the back office basically, and I'm sure you introduced what delirium
So the way that sovereigns get information is when we seek the information, we find it. And the way the ancestors, some people call it a Leviathan spirit or whatever, it's a spirit of revelation. It's revealed. So when you are competent at one thing, and the Moors can attest to this, when you're competent at one thing and then you start looking for the next level and you sign onto your computer, you'll see information that you didn't see before. That is how this works. Is you see information that you didn't even have, you didn't even know they were keeping track of it, of that type of information, but that information will be shown to you. Okay? For example, I'll give the one example. We were able to see something that I did not know they had, which is day by day by day since the year 1790. We were able to see from one day to the next the debt that was accumulated because we're the creditors. To the penny since 1790. So we know that that is what we are to change over. It's a reversion of a state. So what they showed us was the national debt from one day to the next to the penny. And since we're the creditors, we're to introduce the credit part to that, because you can't have that much debt and not have a creditor side. That's not competent accounting, to have a bunch of debt and no credit. So where the Albions and the foreigners created the national debt, the creditors, which is us, that's what our prophet was saying when he said, children, you're just plain rich. We as a nation have more credit than we could ever, but that just means we have some really big things we have to do. When you have that much credit available, that means that you have a whole lot to do, but it has to be used a certain way. It can't be used to enrich just one of us. It has to be for all of us at the same time. It has to be used to grow our government. And that's what we're getting ready to completely and fully embrace. Is our next move is we're all of us, all hands on deck. With whatever expertise you bring it, because your nation is going to need it. And that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's going to be work. It's going to be a lot of work. Let me put that on the record. If you're not prepared to do a lot of work, please take a seat at the study table. And when you study and something is revealed to you that sparks your energy and your motivation, you'll be ready to work. Okay? So we don't throw anyone away. We need all hands on deck, even those that are a bit, that might be a bit hesitant, or they are just saying, I'm just going to wait until you all do all the work. Well, you know, you can do that, but you're going to still have to be freeing yourself while you're doing that, because that other piece doesn't stop just because we're doing what we're doing. They're still going to be in pursuit to wake everybody up. And there's nothing that wakes Moors up quicker than those fakes throwing some court stuff at you that you need to free yourself from. We wake up really quickly. And in the chat, Justice Travis Russell L says, multi-talented Gemini here, Islam. We appreciate that. What does my nation need from me? Your nation needs you to first free yourself from all that is attempting to, what's a good word? Attempting to enslave you. Free yourself first so that you can tell others how to free themselves and assist, and also so that when it's time for you to move into your universal whatever, which is already time, we should all be doing something already that we are really, really good at. For example, there are some justices out there who know everything, you know, who are doing the law piece like nobody's business. Some are doing assisting others in administrative things, like there's no tomorrow. They're just doing an awesome job of that. And so doing those things, that's what your nation needs most, is for you to free yourself using competent sovereign processes. Free yourself, keeping everything sovereign, and come out of that capitalist system. Terminate the corporate contracts, come out of it, and demonstrate that. Demonstrate that, because that is where the sovereign credit is going to, the sovereign commerce is going to come in at. You must be free from capitalism in order to do sovereign commerce. And you have to know how you got free and why. How you did that and why. And so again, those doing the court actions and the liens, you're on your way. Islam. This is your man. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to again round off what you just said. So here come the two-hump camel. That is exactly what Noble Drew Ali meant when he said, I have given you everything you need to save a nation. Now, take it and save yourself.
Yes.
Islam.
Islam. Yes, Islam. If I had some pom-poms, I'd be cheering for that, because that is absolutely what he meant by that. Free. What does your nation need from you? Free yourself and come out of that capitalist system so we can get this sovereign commerce going. We're the titans of commerce, always have been and always will be. We taught them everything they know. So, of course, we are all where commerce and natural resources and all land is concerned. But we have to come out of that system. You can't do it while you're trying to operate in the corporate system. You have to come out of the corporate system, free yourself from all that they're attempting to put on to the sovereign heirs, and know the difference between capitalism and your sovereign status, and how to put those two to work. Okay, so we're well on our way. I'm just so excited for our nation because we're well on our way. We have so many competent heirs that are already doing court actions. Every week we're having more and more court actions, and that's really important because everything, listen, law governs all things, and all law is commerce. Okay, so that's why we're saying what we're saying. Islam. Are there any other questions or comments? We are actually about 6 minutes over, so we do want to pare down the call so that we can move forward. There's a little bit of feedback coming from one of the lines, so I'm going to go ahead and mute that line. Empress Genesis, do you have the bowls today? I'd love for us to. I would love
Indeed,
for us
I do.
to. Oh yes, I would love for us to lead to exit the meeting with the singing bowls and meditation together and oming together. Empress Michelle, if you're, I believe I did see you here and hear from you. If you could lead us in some om on our way out so that we can meditate together as a nation and as the government, because our spiritual life means everything. It means everything.
Islam.
Empress Michelle and Empress Genesis, I am yielding the floor to the two of you so we can meditate together. Islam, with the bowls and all. However you all choose to do it.
Islam. Islam. I'll wait for the bowls, Empress, if you want to lead with the bowls.
Okay.
Take a deep breath, everyone. Islam, peace and love, Lord. One thing I love about that, I really love about that is that we actually harmonize as we unify through that process. I love it. Peace and grand rising to the air. Islam. Much love.
Islam.
Much love. Islam. Much love.
Grand rising, Islam.
Peace and love. Islam. Peace and love more.
Peace and love. Islam.
Peace and love more. Grand rising.
Peace and love more. Grand rising. I love you.
Grand rising, Empress. We love you too. Love you too, Empress.
Islam. Right. Islam.
Islam.
Empress and Michelle.
Huh?
Islam.
Islam.
Yes, peace and love.
Peace and love.
I love that Empress Michelle.
Peace
did you
and
notice
love.
that
Grand
the
rising.
longer we did the om, the more in harmony we became?
Yes.
We became more in harmony. I love that.
I
the
noticed that
longer
too.
we continue to move together as one, listen, there's nothing we can't do. There's nothing we can't do.
That's right, and we harmonize those
Empress
energies.
Genesis.
You are quite welcome.
Our energies do that automatically when we stay together. I love that. I love that.
I love it.
Islam. Thank you, Empress Genesis, for the bowls. Thank you so
you
much.
are quite welcome.
We need them.
You're quite
Islam.
welcome.
Thank you, Empress
It's my
Michelle,
pleasure,
for the
actually.
om.
Yes,
We need
Empress
it.
Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you. Islam.